Hi, everyone. Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening, maybe, depending on where in the world you are. So exciting to see all of you as you make your way in out of the waiting room. If you're in a place where you can turn your camera on, we always love to see your smiling faces. If you're not in a place where you can turn your camera on, no pressure. You can leave your camera off today. But hi, Alana. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Patrice. Hi, Adeline. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Well, it looks like we've got at least the first batch of folks out of the waiting room. I'll keep an eye on it and continue to admit people as they pop in. But hello again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're in. I think we've got a little bit of everything represented today. My name, as always, is Karen Rimland. So happy to see so many of you here today. Excited to have another wonderful guest joining us for today's Black Girls Matter program series. We are joined today by Amber Koonce. Want to share a little bit about Amber with all of you before I turn things over to Amber. So Amber is originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, and Amber was called to serve as an activist at a very early age. She attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where her commitment to amplify the voices of marginalized groups within structures of power led her to pursue her Bachelor's of Art in Public Policy and Cultural Studies with a minor in entrepreneurship. She then went on to earn her Doctor of Law from Yale Law School, the Yale, big time. While she was at UNC, Amber was the youngest individual ever appointed by the governor to serve as a board member for the North Carolina Council for Women. In this capacity, Amber worked to project the consequences proposed legislations would have on the status of women throughout the state of North Carolina. Her activism in this position earned Amber the Girl Scouts Young Woman of Distinction Award in 2010, as well as the Pearson Prize for Higher Education in 2011. One of Amber's most rewarding roles has been as a mentor for incarcerated youth. For 3 years, Amber led a student group to regularly work with incarcerated juveniles in Durham, North Carolina. Her concern for the plight of these youth prompted her to work within international juvenile detention centers located in Ghana and Scotland. So Amber is no stranger to overseas and what it's like to be an expat overseas and work overseas, I think. And eventually, all of that amazing stuff, her time at UNC, her time at Yale, her volunteer experiences, led to her current role, where Amber works with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Amber is also the founder and executive director of Beauty Gap, a nonprofit organization that distributes dolls of color to girls of color internationally, all over the world. Amber's work with Beauty Gap earned her a few prestigious recognitions. She was awarded the Social Entrepreneur in Glamour magazine in their top 10 college women's list. And she was also identified as one of the nation's top 25 young futurists by The Root. So without further ado, I am so excited. I could fangirl all day over Amber and her many accomplishments, but you're not here to watch me fangirl over Amber. You're here to hear from Amber herself. So without further ado, so excited to turn things over to this distinguished, this just outstanding, amazingly wonderful Girl Scout alumna, Amber. Hi, Amber. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. That was a very overwhelming introduction, Taryn, but thank you. It's so wonderful to see everyone's beautiful face. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can look along at this presentation with me. All right. Can everyone see that? So great. I'm so excited to talk to you guys today as a part of your Black Girls Matter series about how to turn your activism or causes you care about into action. And I'm going to do that by walking you through how I did that through the creation of my nonprofit. And then we're going to have a little fun towards the end, and you guys are going to become lawyers for the day. And I'm going to show you how we turn activism into action as lawyers, and we'll have some cases for you guys to work on. Does that sound good? So there will be a time toward the end of this where I'll need you to unmute and raise your hand and participate. So just hang in there with me. But as Taryn said, I'm a human rights and a civil rights attorney, and I'm just so excited to be talking to you guys today. So I want to give you some background on my connection to the Girl Scouts. I'm so happy to be speaking to Girl Scouts today. I'm a lifelong Girl Scout. I went from brownies to, I think now you guys call it Ambassador Scouts, but it was called Senior Scouts at the time, through my senior year of high school, and I'm a lifelong member now. I did my Silver Award project, my Gold Award. I was able to stay at the Girl Scout World Center in Geneva, Switzerland. If you ever have that opportunity, I strongly suggest you go see it. It's gorgeous. I founded a nonprofit, and I'm an attorney. So if you take nothing else away from my presentation today, I found 5 steps that I think are important to help you turn causes that you care about or your activism into action in your life. So there are 5 steps. So first, I think it's really important for you to identify a problem or see a problem or a shortcoming that's either in your community, in your country, maybe in your neighborhood or your village. Find a problem or an issue that concerns you. Then number 2, do your research. Research what created this problem? Why is this happening? What could I do to address it? Which leads me to number 3, find a solution. There are some really big problems in our world, but what I like to say is when you think about what role you can play, find a solution that fits you. So even though it may be a massive problem, there may be something you can do on a smaller scale to address it. Something that you can contribute as an individual, or maybe you get together a group of your friends to address it. So think about that. Number 4, build support. Reach out to your parents, community members, your friends. Maybe they'll want to help you in finding a solution to your problem. And then number 5, maybe they'll help you execute it. And that's exactly what I experienced with my nonprofit. And so I'm going to walk you through these steps as they kind of apply to how I saw a problem and then turned it into a community initiative that eventually became a nonprofit organization. So Beauty Gap. Beauty Gap is my nonprofit, and what it is, it's an organization that provides girls of color around the world with dolls that look like them. So identifying the problem. The summer after my first year of college, I was volunteering in Ghana, West Africa, and it was my first time on the continent. And I was surprised to see that the little girls I was volunteering with did not have access to dolls that looked like them. Even though their skin was a beautiful brown color, all of their dolls had blonde hair and blue eyes. And this bothered me. It's concerned me that they couldn't find dolls that looked like them, but I wasn't sure why I was concerned about it. So I started doing my research. And I learned that studies have shown that children having access to dolls that look like them, or books with characters that look like them, or movies that look like them, that actually increases your self-confidence and your self-concept. When you don't have access to books and dolls and movies and shows with positive characters that look like you have a hard time understanding how you should view yourself. So I reached out to my community members and organized a doll drive. And with that, I just wanted to collect enough dolls to be able to send Black dolls to the orphanage from the village I was in. And it was such a success, which is what you see, all of my community members coming together, that I decided to eventually apply for grants and make this an ongoing nonprofit effort. So I launched Beauty Gap. And it has been ongoing now for over 10 years. And I'm going to show you guys some pictures of our doll distributions from around the world. So you can see girls receiving their dolls. So this is a doll distribution in Ghana, Haiti, and the Philippines. And for the Philippines, we did Dora dolls because they seem to look, Dora's not Filipino, but she looked a lot like the girls I was working with there. So when you leave this presentation today, I want you guys to start thinking about what is something that you've seen in your community or in your neighborhood or in your area that concerns you. Maybe children don't have access to fresh food. Maybe there's a senior citizens home that needs park benches. What's going on in your community? Where is there something lacking where you feel like you can fill the gap? What I found when creating Beauty Gap was that the reason why these girls didn't have access to dolls that looked like them was because they didn't have enough money to buy their own dolls. So the dolls they had were dolls that had been donated from the West. And most dolls from the West, from European countries or Western countries, you know, are dolls with blonde hair and blue eyes. So that's where I found the solution. Oh, let me just inject a more diverse array of dolls into the market of dolls that are being donated abroad. All right, so aside from Beauty Gap, another way that I have been channeling my activism or my concerns into action is through my career as a human rights and civil rights attorney. So I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to be attorneys or law students for the day and to kind of walk you through what we do as lawyers. So take notes on these next couple slides and then raise your hand so Taryn can see you and you can participate. But basically, what an attorney does, how an attorney turns a concern into action, is they let an individual know what rights they have that have been violated. And then once you identify someone's right that has been violated, you can file a lawsuit. And that's the action you take to vindicate their rights or to make that person whole is the language that we use to help them recover from whatever harm they suffered from their rights being violated. So you might be wondering what's the difference between a human right and a civil right. So we're going to go through that now. So a human right is internationally recognized, which is very apt for this gathering of us because we're scattered all over the world. They are rights that are recognized that belong to every person on earth, regardless of their race, their sex, their religion, or their gender. So make note of this. This includes your right to life, your right to be free from slavery. So that means no one can make you work without pay. Your right to be free from torture, your right to work and to hold a job to sustain yourself, your right to education. A civil right is more specific to your country, whatever country you may be in, because it's the rights of citizens of that country to political and social equity. So that means to be equal politically and socially, no matter your race, your gender, your religion, or your sexual orientation. So that includes your right to vote. Everyone should be have the right to vote if they're of age. your right to free speech, freedom of speech. That's particularly strong in the United States. It's in our First Amendment of the Constitution. Your right to work in a workplace that is free from harassment or bullying, someone picking on you or giving you a hard time because you're a girl or a young woman. That's a right that you have if you're in the United States specifically, and perhaps in your own country, you would have to look into it. In the United States, we had a history of separating people by race to go to separate schools. So to correct that that wrong thing that happened in the past, now you have a right to attend a school that is not racially identifiable. Meaning I shouldn't be able to look at your school and say, oh, all the white students go to this school and all the black students go to this school. You should not be able to do that. It is your right to attend a school that is diverse. And your right to rent an apartment or purchase a home without someone giving you a hard time because you're a woman or because of your race. So now you're the attorney. I'm going to read cases to you, and then I'm going to need you to raise your hand so Taryn can see you and tell me what rights, whether they're a human right or a civil right, and even bonus points if you can tell me the specific right that has been violated. What right has been violated of the person? Got it? All right, so here we go. Case number 1. Yasmin applied for a job in her village. She met all the qualifications and she studied hard to secure the position. But the owner of the company told her that women are not allowed to work for him and she must instead stay home and tend to her housework. Has Yasmin's rights been violated? I see Alana's hand is raised.
Yasmin's right has been violated because they're not allowing her to work, but she's trained very hard to earn the job, but the man's not allowing her because she's a woman and she needs to be at the household.
Very good, Alana. Great job. So Alana has identified that Yasmin's right to work has been violated. And specifically, that's wrong because it's been violated because of her gender, because she's a woman. Now, can someone else raise their hand and tell me, is the right to work a human right? Is it internationally recognized, or is it a civil right? I see Adeline, yes.
I'm not sure, but I think it might be both.
Very good, Adeline. Wow, you crushed that trick question. It is both. Adeline, Alana, you girls are brilliant. Great job. Okay, so you guys did a great job with this case. You would tell Yasmin, if you were the lawyer, you would say, Yasmin, yes, your rights has been violated, specifically your civil right to work and your human right to work. Every nation would recognize this. Or the United Nations would recognize this, and they've been violated because no one can deny you a job that you're qualified for just because you're a woman or just because you're a girl. Great job, ladies. All right, case number 2. This might sound familiar. After attempting to leave a grocery store, 4 police officers confronted a Black American named George Floyd because the store clerk alleged he had attempted to pay for his groceries with a fake $20 bill. Mr. Floyd insisted this was not true. However, the police officers arrested him and handcuffed him face down on the street. One officer, Derek Chauvin, pressed his full body weight into Mr. Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Mr. Floyd told the police officer several times he could not breathe, but Officer Chauvin ignored his cries and kept his knees on Mr. Floyd's neck until he died. So this happened pretty recently, last summer. Can anyone walk me through what, if any, rights of Mr. Floyd were violated? Oops. So we have a choice, but we have human rights, we have civil rights. Do you remember what the different human rights are? I see Adeline again. Yes.
The human right to live.
To life.
Yeah.
Very good, Adeline. Yes, that is right. There's another right that may have been violated. I see Olana.
Where is it that they accused him without having any proof that he had a $20 fake bill, so they didn't have any proof and he just killed him because they did.
Right, Olana. So that goes again to the right to life, because if you're killed for something that someone else wouldn't necessarily be killed for, if someone accuses you of paying with fake money, that doesn't necessarily mean you get the death penalty. That is a violation of that right to life. There's one more, and I'll tell you, it's a human right that has been violated. And I can go back to the human rights page. Would that help you, ladies? So you can refer back to the human rights. And thank you so much, Olana and Adeline. We're going to try to get one more person to point out what human right has been violated. So here's the list of human rights. I'm going to look through, see if anyone's hand's raised. Oh, I see Alona. Yes. And Kalia. So let's let Alona speak first. Go ahead.
Is it freedom from torture?
Very good, Alona. Great job. And Kalia, what were you going to say?
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the reason why this case caused so much protest internationally, because we saw someone being tortured on camera, and that's just not something that you want to see or that you see every day. But that's absolutely right. You know, the United Nations recognizes that people around the world should be free from torture. You shouldn't be tortured. And repeatedly telling someone you can't breathe and them still cutting off your airway is a form of torture. So excellent job, ladies. All four of you would make phenomenal attorneys. One last case. Malala Yousafzai was shot in the head by terrorists after protesting for girls in her home of Swat Valley, Pakistan, to be able to receive an education. At the time, girls were not allowed to attend school. So what rights of Malala's were violated? I see Kayla and Tania.
I think it was right to life.
Yes. And I thought that was a tricky one. Yes, just because you don't actually die, if someone tries to kill you, your right to life has been violated. Excellent job, Kayla. What other right has been violated, Tania?
Wouldn't it be like your right to education?
Yes. And what, on the basis of what were they denying her the right to education?
They were denying her the right to go to school.
Because of what character trait?
That she was a girl.
Yes, and that's what makes it wrong. That's exactly right. Great job. Great job. You guys are excellent attorneys. All right. So are there any more hands? Anyone else want to say anything about Malala's case?
Wouldn't it also be the torture one?
Adeline, brilliant. I had not thought about that, but I believe, you know what? As an attorney, you're supposed to be what they call a zealous advocate, meaning you are excited to advocate for the person. So you would be the perfect zealous advocate, because that means you look for every single right you can find that has been violated. And yes, absolutely, Adeline, I would argue the fact that you didn't kill her and you shot her in the face and she had to go through surgery and she had all the agony and pain, that is a form of torture. So I absolutely would argue that. And I actually hadn't thought about that when I was putting these prompts together. So excellent job. I mean, you ladies are phenomenal, and I hope some of you consider becoming attorneys, because we need more women attorneys. It's I wish I had looked up the statistic before meeting with you, but I know Black women are only 2% of attorneys in the United States. And I believe women writ large are also a very small percentage of the profession. So thank you guys. That's it for my presentation. And we're just gonna open the floor up for if you have any questions for me, if you have any thoughts about things you see in your community that you might want to act on, maybe your Silver Award or your Gold Award projects, or any questions you have about my work as an attorney, I'm happy to answer.
It looks like Camille has a question. And ladies, as you have questions, you can raise your Zoom hand or type them into the chat log. Camille, I see your hand up, so I will invite you to unmute, and you can ask Amber your question.
What was the hardest part about becoming an attorney, and what is the hardest part now?
Excellent question, Camille. So the hardest part about becoming an attorney was taking, in the United States, you have to take what's called the bar exam. And there are other qualifying exams in the UK and in other countries. But in the US, it's called the bar exam. And that was really hard for me because test taking does not come naturally for me. So I had to, for 3 months, study for like 10 to 12 hours a day. And I only took breaks to eat. And it was really hard because I was doing this at a time when all my friends were out having fun, and I felt like I was missing out on all of the fun. And actually, I'll just to be vulnerable with you girls, I did not pass the first time. So I really took a blow to my confidence, and I had to pick myself up and study for 3 more months and do it again. But I tell you that because I actually took a lot of comfort in reading up on other women who didn't pass the first time, just like Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris. So I figured I would be okay. I was in good company. But studying for that, not passing the first time, was really hard for me. And just kind of putting my life on hold to try to pass the test, it was a really frustrating time. The hardest part of being a lawyer, which you may have felt some of this with the cases I described, it can be really emotionally taxing. Reading about someone getting hurt, or reading about someone being tortured, or having their rights violated, it can make you really sad. So lawyers talk about this often, but the importance of, having good practices to take care of yourself, of understanding what you have the power to do to advocate for someone, and that, sometimes it doesn't always work out, but finding the emotional balance of being a good advocate and not letting yourself get so down from the cases would be the hardest balance of being an attorney. Great question.
Is being an attorney a dangerous job?
Who asked that?
Tanaya.
Tanaya. It can be. So in the United States, back when they were segregating the races, Black and white attorneys who believed in integration, who believed that people should be able to get married and go to school together and live together, they were often under threat of violence from people who did not want that to occur. And so it was a very dangerous job. The first Black Supreme Court justice in the United States, his name was Thurgood Marshall. He often came under threat of a mob because he would travel down to the south of the United States and try to advocate for diversity and integration. So it can be a dangerous job. Even now, I was telling Taryn, I was representing a Black woman who wanted to teach at the University of North Carolina, and she was qualified, just like the prompt I gave you. She had done all the research, she had gotten all the awards, and they denied her the job. And we were arguing that they denied her the job because of her gender, that she was a woman, and her race. And I was nervous about being on that case because I live in the area where the case was taking place. I live in North Carolina, and I attended the school. So I actually did have safety concerns with that case. Any case that's politically charged, you may have some safety concerns.
Olana asked in the chat log, is being an attorney, in your opinion, a fun job? And is there anything else you do? What are some of the things you do being a lawyer?
It is a fun job because I like getting to know new people. So it's fun for me to get a case, and helping people is fun, which I know you girls all agree with because you're Girl Scouts. So I do think it's a good fun because helping people is fun, getting to know new people is fun, and you get to travel. I have cases all throughout the United States. So you get to travel and see new parts of the country. So I really enjoy that. What else do I do? As an attorney, I have like a client who's incarcerated. So you may visit them in prison, visit a prison to talk to them. One part of it that I didn't anticipate, but I have a school desegregation case. So it's a school where you can still say, oh, that's a Black school and that's a white school. That's illegal. So I have a case about that. And we've been organizing community meetings to talk with the community members about how are we going to come together to integrate their schools. So that's a part of being an attorney that I didn't anticipate, that I really enjoy. I see Adeline and then Camille.
When I'm working on my bronze award right now, when you got your silver and gold award, how did it affect your job as a lawyer today?
That's a great question, Adeline. I love that the Girl Scouts has the bronze, silver, and gold awards because they show you at an early age that you can make a difference. So I think that if I hadn't gone through the process of doing a silver and a gold project, I wouldn't understand, or I wouldn't fully appreciate the power that that we have as individual girls to make a difference. And that type of self-assuredness is what kind of gave me the confidence to do Beauty Gap, because that wasn't Girl Scout related, but I took the lessons I learned from my silver and gold award and did it. And it gives you a confidence. Being an attorney, you have to kind of have confidence for someone to believe that you'll fight for them and that you'll vindicate their rights. And so accomplishing something like a bronze award, a silver award, a gold award will give you that self-assuredness and that confidence to know that you can make a difference. So congrats on working on your bronze award. That's so exciting. And Camille?
What made you want to be an attorney in the first place?
That's a great question, Camille. It kind of goes back to what we talked about, the steps for changing your activism into action. When you see problems in your community, then deciding what the solution will be. My Girl Scout silver and gold award led me to see different problems in my community. And I realized that being a lawyer, or knowing the law, knowing your rights, is a tool you can use to bring about action or bring about change. So that's why I thought this would be a good career fit for me. And so far it has been.
There is another question in the chat log, and I never call anything a weakness. I always call it an opportunity for improvement. So Amber, what do you think is your greatest opportunity for improvement in being an attorney?
My greatest weakness. That's a really good question. It's specifically when it comes to being an attorney. I mean, you guys can probably all relate to this, but it would be like procrastination. Because when you're an attorney, no matter what country you're in, the court has deadlines. And ideally, you are doing your part to get things done well ahead of the deadline. So you can review it several times before you like file a brief or a petition, before you place a filing with the court. But like many people, I am a procrastinator, and I'm often under the stressful situation of trying to like rush to finish up a filing before I file it with the court. I've gotten better at that by putting like timestamps in my calendar. So I'll note to myself, like, you should have a first draft done at this point. You should have a second draft done at this point. But the procrastinating and just also kind of what you saw today, where Adeline identified a right that I hadn't thought of. With the case, oftentimes you're trying to figure out every single right, or what we call a cause of action, you can bring on that person's behalf. And sometimes I'll get so deep down the rabbit hole of researching every single possible right that you're running out of time for when you need to file with the court. So it's a balance of time management and not procrastinating that I am still working on, for sure. I think Tania.
Yeah. Do you feel like law school prepared you for being an attorney?
That's a great question, Tania. It does not. No. Law school does not prepare you. Girl Scouts prepares you for being an attorney better than law school prepares you for being an attorney. And that is the honest truth. Law school, you know, you go for the connections you'll make with your classmates, and they do teach you, the basics of like, these are the rights you have in our Constitution, kind of like the slides we went through. But the practical stuff, like how to be sensitive to other cultures, how to identify problems in your community, how to work together with people to form a solution, that stuff you get from organizations like the Girl Scouts and through life experience. And that is not something that law school can teach. And those are the skills that are actually most important when it comes to being an attorney.
Amber, I have a question. I don't want to steal from the girls' thunder, but I'm curious. The rights that you presented, where do those come from? Like, is there like, I'm picturing like the Avengers who are like, these are the international rights, but I'm sure it's probably not the Avengers. Who says that like these are the rights, and who ultimately is in charge of upholding those in the United States and even internationally, where everybody has so many different governments and,
right,
and police forces?
So the United Nations is the short answer, in the member nations, so countries who opt into the United Nations mandates. But it gets tricky, because even within the United Nations, there's some mandates that the United States hasn't agreed to, and some mandates that other countries don't agree to. So, I mean, that is the roughest sketch we have of human rights comes from the United Nations. But of course, you know, there's definitely still countries where we know people work for no pay. I mean, that still happens in the United States. It's illegal, but it still happens. So the United Nations is the best we have as far as upholding our international rights. And then you have like international tribunals, where when people commit war crimes, it's understood, you know, this is the threshold for a war crime. So, you know, you'll be heard before an international court. But that's the best we have. I see Olana and then Tania again.
Could I just ask, like, did you have a dream before you became an attorney, or was it always you stuck with an attorney when you were younger? You always wanted to be an attorney?
That is an excellent question. I wanted to be an actress, but I really love theater. I love Broadway. I wanted to do theater specifically. And it was a mixture of things. My parents didn't think that was practical. I'm here to tell you, anything is practical. Just put your mind to it. But my parents at the time didn't think it was practical. And then I kind of reasoned with myself, you know, okay, as far as job security, I'll do the law path. But there are a lot of things about being an attorney that scratch my theater bug. So anytime you're presenting to a judge or presenting to a court or presenting to you guys or community meetings or town halls, it feels kind of like a performance, like theater. And so that helps me kind of touch on the desire I have or the love I have for theater. But that is my true passion. And that, you know, that is in my dream life, that's what I would be doing. I mean, I love what I'm doing. I love my job. But if I had a second life, I would be doing that.
Thank you.
Of course.
Being an attorney, is there like something called like settling in what's the other word, negotiating, something like that?
Yes. Oh, wow. Brilliant. So what Tania is touching on is that you actually don't want to go to trial if you can help it as an attorney. You don't want the outcome of your case to be left to one person, a judge, or a jury of 12 people. Ideally, you and the person that's harmed you can come to a settlement agreement or negotiate what's called a settlement so that you don't have to go to trial. So that can look like several things. For the example of Yasmin, who wanted the job, instead of going to trial and suing that man and saying he wouldn't hire me, she could have attorneys enter into negotiations with him and say, look, Yasmin doesn't have to work there, but you're going to pay her X amount of money because you wouldn't hire her because she's a woman. So there are pros and cons to that. The pro may be maybe Yasmin needed a lot of money right there in that moment, and so the settlement helps her. But the con is you don't get an official ruling from the court that it was wrong to deny her a job because of her gender. And that official ruling is what we call precedent in the law. And precedent is important because whenever someone in the future is maybe harmed for the same reason, you can point back to that court ruling and say, see, this is something that a court has already said is really harmful and illegal. So what happens with settlement is you lose the court ruling. You lose an official finding from the court that this is harmful. But, you know, if someone may need money in the moment or may need whatever resources you can negotiate in the moment. So it's a trade-off. That was a very, that was a deep question. I was not expecting something that in the weeds in the profession.
These Girl Scouts come with awesome questions. There's a
Yes.
few more great ones in the chat log as well. Madison is curious, have you ever defended anyone outside of the United States?
I have not. No, I have not. Great question. And I have not yet. But I would, I really look up to and admire Amal Clooney, and she has a very like international legal practice. And I would love to do something like that eventually.
And Olana is curious, is being an attorney kind of like being a detective? Alana mentioned she loves mysteries and cases and things like that. I think we
Yes.
might have a future attorney in our midst, maybe
Definitely.
three or four.
It is like being a detective, because especially if you have a case where it's not clear what has happened, or if it's not clear if you're defending someone and someone has accused them of something and it's not clear if the harm has happened or it's happened the way in which that person says it happened, then you are a detective. And you have what are called, you have interviews with all the people who were engaged in the action or the behavior, and you build timelines of what happened when, and you try to pin down the truth, which is somewhere in between. Another career that's not being an attorney, but that does that work, are called investigators. So attorneys often don't have time to make the timelines and interview everyone. So they'll hire investigators to do that work for them, and then they use their information in their creation of the case. So that is a part of being an attorney. You would probably be a defense attorney, or if you were representing maybe women who've experienced harassment or bullying on the workplace. I had a case where we had to go back and interview who was bullying this woman. What did they say? When did it happen? That was kind of the investigative part of the job. And I really enjoyed that. So I think that would be a great fit for you if you're ever interested. I see Adeline again.
Have you ever had a case that you didn't want to take because you thought that they actually broke the law?
I haven't yet, but the United States Constitution guarantees everyone in a criminal case the right to an attorney. So even if someone has done something really awful, that person deserves to have an attorney represent them in court. Of course, they'll probably end up, getting jail time, but the idea is that in order to have a fair society, everyone needs to have some sort of representation in the courtroom. You can't just have one person who doesn't have a lawyer who can kind of explain to them what's going on. So I haven't run into that yet, but there are a lot of attorneys who represent people who've done some really terrible things, but that's because that's what the United States Constitution requires. It requires that in the criminal context, because if a crime is committed, you can lose your life, you can get the death penalty if the crime is bad enough, or you can lose your liberty, which is going to prison. And the founding fathers determined that because the stakes were so high in the criminal context, that everyone deserved to have an attorney to kind of get them the best outcome possible because the stakes were so high. And that attorney is called a public defender, which means that the attorney is free to the person because the person can't afford their own attorney.
What's your greatest achievement from like being an attorney? Like, what have you done that you liked, like of an achievement?
That is a good question. So I haven't been an attorney for too long. I've only been out of law school for 4 years, but I guess one case I really liked, it was a kid who he was sentenced to life in prison at the age of 15 for a crime that it wasn't clear he committed. And actually they had little to no evidence on him. And I was able to get him resentenced to have parole, which means that he will not inevitably be in prison for the rest of his life, that eventually he'll have a hearing before a parole board that will look at his record and determine, whether he can go back home. So that case meant a lot to me because I got to be really close to his family. And because anytime someone's wrongfully accused, it's also very concerning if someone's sitting in prison for something they didn't do. The other case I'm really proud of, or it's a matter because we filed, well, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but the other case I'm proud of, is representing who I mentioned before, but this woman, a Black woman professor who wanted to teach at my university, who was denied a tenured position. And basically we represented her and were able to get a vote for her to get tenure. And that just made me really proud because you should be able, if you qualify for a job, you should be able to do the job no matter your gender, if you're a girl, whatever, or your race. So I was really proud of that matter too. Alana? Uh-oh, I can't hear you. I still can't hear you. I see you're unmuted, but I don't know if it's the microphone maybe. Uh-oh. I don't know what's going on. Oh no, Alana. Can you type it in the chat maybe? Okay.
While Alana types in the chat, there's a great question for Madison on April's iPad. She wants to know, as an attorney, do you ever make time for yourself? You mentioned you're always swarmed by work. I imagine you do take time for yourself, but do you, and how? And
that's a great question.
Yeah, that work-life balance, the elusive work-life balance.
That's Madison. That's like
Yep.
a 20-year-old question. I'm like, how old are you, Madison? Or you guys are just very mature. So the first part in my career, like I said, it's been 4 years. The first 2 years, I was at a big corporate law firm in New York, and I did not have work-life balance. I worked all the time and I was miserable. And that was after studying for the bar, where I studied all the time and I was miserable. So now I actually do have a lot of work-life balance, and I'm able to do things I enjoy, like do more things with the Girl Scouts or hang with my friends. And that's because as a civil rights attorney, as a human rights attorney, it's just it's a more flexible schedule. So I get to enjoy my weekends. When I was a corporate attorney, you know, working at a big law firm, I had to work on Saturday and Sunday, every Saturday and Sunday. So that was really difficult, and I had no work-life balance. But now that I'm at, it's a nonprofit, actually, a nonprofit doing this work, I have a much more relaxed schedule. I did take a pay cut, but my work-life balance is a lot better. That is an excellent question. Was Alana able to get her question in the chat, DC?
Oh, yep, there it is. Yep. How many cases have you managed? How many cases have you done?
Oh gosh, I've never counted. I'll just do a ballpark. At this point, I've been on over 25 cases. Yeah.
Have you ever like doubted that you wanted to be an attorney while you were like going through the process of studying and in law school?
That's a great question, Adeline. I actually never doubted that I wanted to be an attorney. Once I went to law school, and I actually really loved law school. So once I saw that I loved law school and I realized I could do work I cared about, I was always really happy with my decision to be an attorney. Now, I actually still did plays in law school. So I did a play my last year of law school, just to still do something I love, which you all should do. If you have hobbies or interests, you should always keep doing your hobbies and interests, no matter what job you end up with. But I never doubted it. Even after I didn't pass the bar the first time, I was really bummed. I was really sad. But I never thought like maybe I should do a different career. When you find something that fits, I think you'll really, you'll know, because you'll be really satisfied with it, and you'll just be determined to do it well instead of just, you know, finding something else.
There's a great question in the chat log, and I'll ask that of you in a second. And girls, I'm gonna say after this question, we probably have time for 1 or 2 more. So if you have any questions for Amber, send them through the chat log or get your hand raised now, before we say goodbye. So, and here they come. So the first one, what is the average time it takes that you work on a case, to do a case? Is there an average time?
Cases can take years. So I don't know the exact answer, but cases can take, multiple years, like 2-3 years. Which is why people opt to settle, because that is a quicker solution, because courts take a long time.
And another great question from Madison. Have you ever lost a case? And Madison asked specifically, have one of your clients landed in jail? But I think there's probably other outcomes if in losing a case.
Yeah.
Talk to that.
I have not lost a case thus far, fortunately.
That's awesome.
So no. But again,
rock star. I knew it.
I've been out of law school 4 years. So, but no, not yet. But to the person's question about like the hardest part of being an attorney, if I were to lose a case and if I were to have a client who, go to jail, that would be very emotionally hard, and that's something you have to prepare yourself for if you're that type of attorney.
All right. I don't see any other questions in the chat log. We'll do one more last call. If anyone has any questions that maybe perhaps I missed, I think I've gotten all of them in the chat log, but if I missed it, or if you have any other burning questions for Amber on your mind, now is your chance. All right. I'm not seeing anything else. So we'll say, Amber, thank you.
Oh, I see Sarah.
Much. Oh, here we go. Right under the wire. Excellent. I just sent you an invitation to unmute, Sarah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can.
Okay. So my question is, as a Black woman, do you think you've been respected as an attorney?
That's a great question. I have been respected as an attorney, as a Black attorney. Like I mentioned, only 2% of attorneys are Black women in the United States. But I will say, I have been respected, but I also, it's because I've like dotted all my I's and crossed all my T's. So, I mean, you know, you hear about even being a woman, being a Black woman, you have to be like twice as good to do, just to get the fair treatment. So I've been treated fairly, but I've also like busted my butt to do really excellent work. And that's unfortunate, because you would hope that everyone have the freedom to make a mistake or to learn as you go and be treated fairly. But I have been treated fairly, but I've also worked really hard to do a good job to receive that treatment. Hope that answers your questions. But we need more women attorneys. We need more Black women attorneys. So I hope all of you have just had so many brilliant questions and did such a great job with the cases I presented to you today. I really hope you guys will consider a career as an attorney, because you guys have been phenomenal.
And Lisa shared in the chat log, only 37.4% of women in the US are attorneys. So there is a lot of ground to make up for sure. And Ilana's coming for the job when she's older. So we've got at least one attorney in the pipeline for you. I love it.
All of you have been phenomenal. I mean, 34%, that is just, and from the cases, this is really my soapbox. From the cases we had today, you'll see that like these issues are really sensitive. And sometimes you need someone who's a woman to be able to say, actually, that's wrong. Like he's discriminating against you because you're a woman, or a Black person say, actually, that seems like racial discrimination, because that's how you really see like what rights have been violated from your background experience. So we need more women. We need more people of color to become attorneys so that they can kind of spot all of the rights that have been violated, that other people have had violated. And so I hope all of you guys will consider the profession.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amber. I learned a lot. I am walking away inspired to go take action in my communities. And Girl Scouts, I hope you all feel the same way. So thank you so much again, Amber, for your time and your energy this morning. It's morning for Amber in North Carolina. I am going to give all of you you've all been muted, and I've had to invite you to unmute until this point, but I'm going to give you all the power to unmute yourselves. And so as we say goodbye, you can all come off of unmute and thank Amber yourselves. So thanks again, Amber, and thanks again, Girl Scouts, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was nice seeing all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Of course.
Thanks.
I'm
Guys,
excited.
presentation. The drama experience is at work too.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to see what you girls do in the Girl Scouts.
Thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks so much, Amber.
Thanks for inviting me, Taryn. I had a great time. Bye, guys.
Absolutely.